Hello, everyone. This is Blockchain Professionals Community again, and we are starting our brown bag. And today we have two amazing speakers, and the most important the topic we are going to discuss. Because today is the day where we are speaking about formal verification. And that's not the first time where our community touches this topic. We had those presentations in our blockchain days. But today we are going to speak deep and long about formal verification. And we have two experts today. First, we will hear Eugene Morozov us the topic and the necessity of the formal verification. And later on, I will open the discussion with Andrey Lyashin, who is CEO and co-founder of Provendor. And here we will stay, we will answer questions, we will keep the discussion, and we will collect your questions. So listen to us, stay with us, and post your questions in the Q&A video. Uh, Eugene, you can start now.
Hello, Sasha, and thank you so much for having me here on this event. As you know, this is not the first time I'm speaking to the blockchain community, and all of the times before I spoke as CEO of Devote, which is a true anonymity solution. The first time, what was that, a couple of years ago, maybe even more, we focused on technology and the amazing collection of scientific papers behind Devote, including a work of British mathematician Jane Gross of 2016, including work of South Korean mathematicians called Saver, which described the use of particular anonymity technologies in voting. And then, of course, we have discussed NIL Foundation product called the Saver Protocol, which is essentially the engine of Devote. And on the second call, we talked about ways of adoption. How can those breakthroughs in science and technology be effectively adopted by users? We started by exploring governance at the national, state, and local levels. We worked with a number of election commissions and other organizations which are involved in modernizing elections in a variety of countries, mostly through our membership in the Government Blockchain Association, gbaglobal.org, which I highly recommend for anyone who wants to get access to government levels in a variety of countries, and also through the Internet Governance Forum, which is conducted annually under the auspices of the United Nations. We were speakers in Kyoto in 23. Last year, we were in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, and next year, I think Spain is likely to be the candidate. So having gone through multiple conversations with potential users of this technology, we realized that a few things must happen before we can actually see true adoption and really people benefiting from the technology that is available only for a very, very short period of time. The first one is adoption must be there. People must be comfortable. Blockchain must become a household name. And there are important steps happening you can see in the world today, starting with a very recent new law in the United States, which basically allows now banks to put digital assets, specifically collateralized stablecoins, on their balance sheet, vastly supporting blockchain ecosystem this way and helping people get to the adoption of this technology. The second very important condition to success is trust. The people have to trust, the users, including the voters, have to trust that the software, the application they're using has indeed been looked at by the experts and can be relied on. People want to know that there are no malicious code inside, no trojans, no bugs in the code. And today it's very difficult to achieve. Again, this subject, use of blockchain in elections is very, very new. So to achieve that and to make more progress, we actually worked for the last couple of years with private sector. And I can report to you that the demand for true anonymity in private sector is no less than in public, and private companies, I believe, are more of risk takers. They are willing to experiment more as compared to elections industry, where by and large there is a zero tolerance approach, and people are generally very scared to move away from what they have been doing, the legacy systems, for years. So in our work with private companies, we have actually partnered with a number of large and medium-sized companies in a variety of sectors. Anonymity is very applicable, and many of you, I'm sure, can confirm that, in such sectors as healthcare, where we can start with very basic, like peer reviews, anonymous peer reviews, protecting the authors from retaliation, essentially, if they speak negatively about any medical institution, to clinical data trials, where again anonymity of approvers is critical, all the way to anonymity of patient data, which is a requirement under the laws of many different countries. We also witnessed a substantial interest in this technology in the enterprise resource planning systems, where it is possible, for example, to duly approve a purchase order without revealing the names of the approvers, vastly increasing security of the process. And also by using blockchain for immutability, there is also no doubt with respect to the accuracy of particular data or reports that are being used. Anonymity is also critical and solves a lot of problems in military applications. And you can also guess that receiving a duly authorized order without knowing who the individuals are behind it is very powerful. And it substantially improves the overall security of defense operations. So based on all of those conversations and experiences and pilots, we can say that there is a critical role for trust with respect to the actual solutions, applications, code that those companies are using. A good example in financial sector would be a situation today in the United States where banks are now facing, on one hand, government approval from working with collateralized stable coins, but at the same time, pressure from their shareholders and regulators to be aware and to know the technology that they are using, and to get a bank comfort that whatever application they're using to, let's say, transact in cryptocurrencies, to get them comfort, it is not enough just to have a, let's say, a good reputation of the maker of the technology or solution. It is not enough even to have technical audits. It is much more is needed. So one way that we are trying to address this need and increased trust is what's called blockchain maturity model assessments, which Government Blockchain Association conducts for customers that need to reduce their investment in breaking the barriers of entry into new markets or expanding their presence in existing markets when they can show an independent third party opinion about what they do and what their solution does. That really is really helping. But, and this brings us to the subject of our conversation today, there's even a better way. And that better way that can guarantee to the users, to the regulators, to shareholders, guarantee that the code performs exactly as advertised. To do that, there is a new mechanism, also like devotes anonymity, that became available only in recent years. It is called formal verification. And I'm very proud to have been connected with one particular company that is probably on the very top in the list of companies today in the world that are capable of providing guarantees as to the performance of the code. Provendo.com, and Andrey Lyashin is here with us today. So I bring to you evidence that what Provendo does and what formal verification does is going to grow in demand exponentially. With the adoption of blockchain technology into everyday life of people, it is becoming more and more critical that there is trust in whatever solutions are being used. And also, it is important to say that formal verification is industry agnostic. It is equally applicable in the use cases that I have been working on, starting with the public governance and public elections, where it's absolutely critical, to military, to commercial aviation, to large like cloud infrastructure providers, and to many more types, to healthcare, and to many more types of use cases. Everywhere people will be looking for guarantees. And those guarantees, mathematical proofs, can be provided by our guest today, Andrey Lyashin. That would be my brief introduction, Sasha. Back to you.
Eugene, thank you very much for the intro, and I will shortly summarize, guys. We're like, what? First of all, yes, indeed, Eugene is our frequent speaker, and he can bring the very complex topics very nicely to all of us. And speaking about the formal verification, I must say that anonymity, yes, and we all know that from many sides of the life, we want anonymity to be available for us. We want to act anonymously, but we want to act safely anonymously. And we want others to act safely for us when they are anonymous. We want to interact with the anonymous player safely. And that brings us the famous word trust. And I was presenting a lot, and I heard about like a lot about the trust, and very frequently there are a lot of speculations about what those trust is. And again, the same frequently, a lot of people who protect the blockchain and decentralization say instead of trust to people, you trust the machine. And okay, non-sophisticated acceptors of this message say, okay, we will trust the machine. But if you will think about that, first of all, machines are created by people. Machines are running code, which is created by people. And when you say like, okay, I don't trust people, but I trust machine, that sounds kind of suspicious. Why the heck you trust a machine? And therefore, we are speaking about formal verification now. That's the way which makes the trust to machine trust. Because you trust the machine not because it's a machine, but because it can be proven.
Sasha, there's another way also to look at this, and it is called risk management. For many of us in financial sector, insurance sector, being able to rely on a particular solution is a critical factor in the overall risk management reduction. So, like the word trust, we use frequently, but in reality, from like professional perspective, risk reduction is really what, in my opinion, formal verification is about.
Yes, and not only risk reduction, that's also a responsibility shift because it's not only minimizing, it's also in case of problem happens, we know who is responsible. And with this wonderful introduction, we actually, with Eugene here, we are facilitating. And Andrey, you are the main speaker of today. We are going to flood you with our questions. But first of all, please introduce yourself because I said only a short word and basically your first time with our community. Tell us about yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew. Thank you very much for having me today, and thank you, Sasha and Eugene, for so great introduction. My name is Andrew, as I said, and I am co-founder and CTO of Prevent the company, and we are doing formal verification in Web3 space, and particular for smart contracts, for anything which is connected with blockchain security and blockchain technology. We are doing actually this stuff for already 7 years, and we are playing on this field now of blockchain security and formal verification. Uh, Me personally is mathematician, so I have created a number of technologies we use currently in Prevenda, and I'm still in good mood to proceed with this activity.
Thank you, Andrew. And let's smoothly move in our discussion with with the very beginning. We just explained our listeners what exactly is, but we are going to unwrap the topic. And the first question, which bothered majority of the business people, is uh, how much the formal verification is necessary because it costs money. And the business
Yeah.
people, they say, wow, like, well, we had some like our we trust our developers. Like again, we trust. We trust our developers, we trust the machine, it's just running a code. Is it enough? How do you think? What is your experience on that?
Yep. Short answer is absolutely not enough. From my perspective, so you do not need to trust developers. You don't need to trust any technology until you know exactly how it's actually working. And what we are doing, we are bringing the bridge between business requirements, the code itself, and the user experience of how this code is actually working for them. And that is called the specification of the system, right? And building the specification, explaining how it should work for everyone, for developers, for customers, for users, for everybody. We bring this very, very important part of every software behavior. And my opinion here is trust is built not upon the people. Trust is built upon the technology and upon the verifiable solution, which can everyone test and everyone can check that our proofs are actually correct. We you
Andrew,
actually it, yeah.
can I be can I be blunt and provoking? I'm using microwave every day. And I trust, like when I eat the food which is warmed up there, I feed it my kids. Do I really know how microwave works? Well, because of my technical background, yes, but I'm sure that my mother doesn't. And well, they still use that. Why it's not applicable for the blockchain solutions? Why you need to know how it works to trust it?
Suggest the situation that you will put $1 million to your microwave and suggest that it will cook it right? And will you still trust the microwave if you put $1 million there? And that is why we need really good solutions in blockchain just because we put money there. That's my opinion here.
So, That doesn't mean that for small money we don't need formal verification, and for big money we do.
Um, yeah, it depends of your, your risk levels. If you have a lot of money, you can risk bigger amounts. If you have small amounts, you can risk small amounts. And in blockchain, we are building the, the trustless system where there is no any guarantee at all that this part of the blockchain should work by law. There is no law here, and we need to find somebody, some substance who can guarantee us the correctness. And the substance actually is not people or organization or big government. That is technology, and we are putting the technology on the top of the trust system in blockchain.
Okay.
Allow me to jump in for 1 second. I'd like to add, Sasha, to your question from my perspective. Why is it very much needed by different companies? Imagine that they participate in a request for proposal, for example, from either a large like military agency or maybe like a government somewhere. And when they come and participate and present themselves, being able to say the magic words, "We have been formally verified," can make the difference. For people, for vendors who are trying to sell their technology, having this medal essentially of being formally verified is very, very important. The critical thing here, that formal verification, perhaps together with like a blockchain maturity model assessment of the whole solution, not just the code of it, but also the company behind it and many other factors. A combination of those medals or achievements can really make or break a particular deal. So I suggest we don't underestimate how important it is for many, many companies to be able to do that. Thank you.
Eugene, thank you. And please forgive me for all those relations to the microwaves and like other electrical appliance, but that's exactly it. That's the stamp on the door of my microwave that it's not gonna to explode or not gonna to expose me to those short waves and not going to make me sick. And that's, again, formally verified and stamped because of certain organizations that are certified. For the blockchain solutions, we do the same. We prove to others that it will work according specification. And that's very important.
That's
And
right.
also we are moving to like unwrapping the topic further. And well, the question is, does really every project needs that? Every project in a space? And how to persuade those mostly startup owners to invest money in formal verification. I hope, Andrew, that a little bit later you will tell us how big those money is, at least a little bit. And I just want to remind our listeners that frequently in our presentations, we get those topics about the DAO hack, the wormhole breach exploit, and recently was in 24, there was a Delta Prime exploit. Andrew, tell us where that's possible to avoid those losses, which were many, many millions, if the code would be formally verified.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So from my perspective, the big amounts of exploits can be prevented because every exploit is the direct consequence of somebody's mistake. That's my belief, and that's the cornerstone of our work. Every mistake can be prevented. Every mistake can be fined. can be found, and every mistake can be eliminated, right? And so from my perspective, so actually a lot of currently exploited system can be safe if they involve formal verification or similar techniques in their production pipeline. That's my opinion. However, so I'm not the guy who would say that that formal verification is the silver bullet, right? I'm not that guy. Formal verification is good bullet, but not the only one. So we realize that the efficiency of using a formal verification lies actually on a lot of technical work which should be done in before. And if this work is done not very good, the formal verification is not very good as well. And that makes formal verification not the unique solution which makes every protocol correct. This makes formal verification the solution which makes every protocol better, right? Better than any technique in the world, but not perfect, not perfect. Just because the formal verification is not just a action. Formal verification is a process.
Andrew, how do you sell that? How you persuade projects that they need formal verification?
Yep. So every company and every product company, every protocol company actually had the budget for for QA. So generally speaking, the formal verification is a part of QA. So if you want your system to be verified, if you want your system to be correct, you need some kinds of quality assurance, and you should have budget for that. But what we say actually is that the same budget can be directed to testing, can be directed to auditors, can be directed to any kinds of to engineering activities which cannot give the level of guarantee which formal verification gives. And if you direct this money to technique which prevents the mistakes at the very root, you will win, right? And that is how we convince our customers to play with us.
Okay, interesting. And here at this point, I would like to call Eugene back to us because we all know that there are very specific projects. And Eugene knows those projects well, where the user privacy is paramount, where it's very, very important, like all the voting stuff. And what, like, how does formal verification helps in this case? Eugene, what is your experience?
Yes, that's a good question, and it actually relates directly to the previous one. Uh, uh, there are people behind many solutions today that they don't need to be. We don't even need to explain to them why. The problem is that most people don't know it's available. Let's take an example. We'll talk about voting in a moment, but let's talk about, for example, projects that are preparing their listings on an exchange. For them to be able to tell potential investors, guys, our code has been formally verified, and our tokenomics is based on a solid background. And when we say this amount of tokens will be minted or this amount of tokens will be burned, it is based not just on our promise, right? It is already programmed. And here's the proof that it indeed works that way. So there's a whole category of potential users or customers of Andrei's services and eventually product that they don't need any sales pitches. What they need to know is that this is now available. Remember, this is based on very, very recent scientific and technology discoveries and progress available only in the past few years. So it is not common knowledge yet, the availability of this. And by letting more and more people know, including by using like community outreach, such as the one we're doing now, is really helping. Now, where proof that the anonymity is really there is critical, which is relevant for the vote, of course, is in circumstances where there is zero tolerance for error. Now, in most financial use cases, it is acceptable to most investors that there will be a certain percentage of the investment that will be lost. There are insurance mechanisms available, but generally, people in that category are risk takers, and they invest their money according to their like risk return preferred profile. So they know what they're doing, and they are open to some level of errors. Now, if you take elections of a president in a country, generally election administrators want zero tolerance. And so if we come and say, hey, we have a mobile solution for your elections, which not only vastly increases participation, people can vote from the comfort of their home. They don't need to go and wait in line at the polling station. They don't need to drive, et cetera, et cetera. It vastly increases turnout and solves what's called in the industry a voter apathy problem. Now, for an election commission to approve the use of a mobile solution as opposed to the one on site, they must be certain that, for example, in the US, there's a constitutional requirement of permanent separation of voter ballot and voter affidavit, or anonymity of a voter, we say. And they need to make sure that it's there. It's not enough for them to hear some testimonials that we can bring. It's not enough for them to hear some positive comments, or it's not enough for them to even see that we are invited to speak at the United Nations level about decentralized public infrastructure, for example, so that we're like well-known experts in the field. Not enough. They must be comfortable knowing that the software that those mobile phones are using, allowing people to express their will, that software has been verified by professionals, and there's zero chance that a malicious actor, even with a substantial budget, can wreak havoc to their elections. And in this regard, formal verification is the only known way to convince them that it is 100% reliable. Even audits, technical audits, they all use, and I'm a CPA and an auditor in my past, and audits are used when you audit, you don't have time and resources to verify every transaction. So you look at samples. You look at random samples of something, and then based on the analysis of those sampled transactions, you make a conclusion that with a probability of such and such, we can say that these numbers truly represent the expected risk, for example, right? That's not enough in elections, although it may be enough in financial industry. Same in military. There is zero tolerance if, let's say, U.S. Space Force is using an enterprise resource planning system on Web3, and it cannot afford to miss a shipment of critical components to, let's say, the next space mission by a day. That causes all kinds of problems, massive losses, and it must be avoided. So their tolerance would also be close to zero. So that's another category of potential users where, in addition to anonymity, the proof that the code works as advertised is very, very important. And I can go on forever, Sasha, because
No. We don't need that because we are now moving. Like, I guess all our audience is persuaded of how much is it necessary. I think we covered that enough, and that's clear why and who. And I'm back to Andrew because we would like to hear. We just heard from Eugene that it's the new topic, which means that the solutions for this topic are also new and unknown. And Andrew, can you tell us about the most important formal validation tools which are used? Tell us about the technology, how it's done.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So there are three from my perspective. There are three different and very important approaches here. The first one is model checking. The model checking is the way to to guarantee the properties of the system without really investigating the system itself. So we build the model, we build the system separately, and you can check the model accordingly the specification, and then believe that the same properties will be held for the system itself. Right? Model checking is very important for the first stages of the product development. If you have only idea, if you have only first sketch of your protocol, use model checking. Check the model and then build. The second type of the technology actually used in form verification is SMT solvers. SMT solvers are great because they can check, they can prove the property automatically, right? And if you have some maybe first first order logic property of your program, you can just write it in a special language, upload to SMT solver and wait until it solves or gives you a counts example. And that is perfect just because you only need to specify. You don't need to build the proof. You don't need to think about how all the stuff is actually working. You just place your code, place your specification in special language and push the button, right? And SMT solver sometimes can tell you that this property is actually holds, right? But sometimes it actually gives up and cannot tell anything about your property you're trying to prove, right? And at this stage, the deductive formal verification is coming, right? And deductive formal verification is the technique which can possibly prove anything which can be provable in the world, right? You can prove Fermat theorem there, you can prove anything with using of deductive formal verification approach. And using this approach, you can prove the rest of your stuff, the rest of all your properties which cannot be checked or proved before, right? These three main things are what the formal verification is standard, right? And I don't think it's quite new, actually, just because the deductive formal verification was created about 50 years ago. However, the industry still cannot adopt this, just because it sometimes is unclear, sometimes it's difficult, and sometimes it actually contradicts the regular pipeline of development. What we are doing, we explain our customer that there's no need to change the pipeline drastically, right? We can embed form verification approach in any pipeline, in any development pipeline of any company. And that is what we are doing. We, we are not trying to convince somebody, we are trying to explain that that is seamless, right? And the technology is modern, but the from one side, just because it's not adopted.
How you're doing that? I'm sure that there are a lot of developers who are listening to us, and here they're like, "Oh, we don't need to change much, and we are going to be integrated, and our code would be formally actually verified." How it's done in practice?
In practice is great. So I mean, what's usual developer is doing, right? So he builds something, she builds something, and when it's built, so some kinds of documentation should be created. Now think about that. What if we build not the user documentation, not the boring documentation, we will build the specification instead of documentation, right? That is the document which explains how the code works. Why we need to do that just because to be read, right? We can do it just to be checked or proven, right? And if we build the specification in parallel with the code development, we will create the artifact. We will pass to form verification pipeline. It's anytime, right? And doing that, we will integrate the form verification activity just upon some stages, or maybe points or milestones, whatever. So at every milestone, you will have the specification good enough to be passed to formal verification pipeline, and can be done in parallel to the normal regular development process.
Well, I'm here to play the advocate of the devil. You know, uh, mm, it sounds like formal verification does like what uses as an input specification,
Right.
basically, and verifies according to specification. Andrew, what will happen if the specification is rubbish? Like garbage in, garbage out? I mean, if it verifies what was specified, how we assure that what was specified is good enough? Because in a worst case, we will get the stamp that is formally verified, but the specification was like, I mean, nothing, and which means that it's nothing verified. And code has a stamp, and people trust that, or people or owners or whatever trust it. But what actually was verified?
Yeah, that's good point. So my answer here is that you need some kinds of specifications anytime. Doing your company testing or fuzzing or whatever, pen testing, whatever QA activity, you need some reference according to which this testing is performed, right? And if
Backlog.
you just if you just change this kind of specification to the formal one, you can not only test that, but you can prove that. So yeah, from the first eye, you're right. Having the garbage in, you will have garbage out. However, so the formal verification is not a step. Formal verification is a process, as I said, and you need to embed this process in your pipeline. And the first you need to create is good specification. That's correct, absolutely. So to do that, my opinion here is you don't need to concentrate on the certain type of specification. You can create a number of in different layers of specification. So in our work, we have actually 4 layers of specification, starting from business level and going down to functional level, to lower level specification, through high level, through development level, and then to functional level. Having 4 kinds of specification, you will have bigger amounts of possibilities to have great verification afterwards, right? Another thing I would like to add here, that the written form of specification is not only one you actually need to have. You can have specification in just a graphic, right? You can have some depicted specification. You can have some picture of how your system actually works. And having a lot of AI assistants currently, you can easily, seamlessly convert the graphically presented specification to the written form, the form which is actually can be passed to form verification process afterwards, right? So my advice here, the most kinds of specification you have, the more valuable the form verification will be after this process is done.
Sasha, allow me please to add
Yes,
something
certainly,
to
certainly.
Andrey's answer. When you say, can we see a situation where the code itself has been formally verified, but the actual project is a scam? My opinion, and I started, I think, with this today, is that there needs to be a combination of documents or processes to make sure that no scam is possible from this point of view. And an example of that would be the Government Blockchain Association product called the Blockchain Maturity Model Assessment, which kind of augments the work that Andrey's team is doing, and vice versa. GBA looks at all kinds of factors outside of code itself. The company, the processes, the risk management in that company, what are the factors that can bring the company down? Even if the code is fine, as proven, they can still fail the company itself. So the answer would be to make sure that that angle is covered as well, is to get assessed by GBA, for example. There may be other similar organizations outside of the US that specialize in this. But the answer is look at it comprehensively, not at only the code, but at all factors that can make or break the particular solution. Thank you.
Guys, thank you. That actually explains. And I heard that Andrew mentioned that using AI, and I have another provoking question. Like now, there are a lot of speculations, and the people are saying that AI is eating the world, and not even slowly, but fast. Would that happen with the verification of the smart contracts? Like I know that there are already developers who are using AI to write the smart contracts. What about to verify?
Yeah, AI is actually eating the world. That's right, and of course we are not the guys who disrespect this this movement, and we are using AI in everyday activity, but not for proving. Currently in 2025, so I can say that there is no actually there is no known example of how AI can prove something in production. I know a lot of examples of how AI can prove something, artificial. For example, IMO tasks or something similar, but not the real production tasks. From my perspective, it cannot be proven at the moment. So maybe the world will change again, maybe in 2-3 years. But at the moment, AI can help only to build the specification, to explain the code, to find some direction of of constructing the proofs, but uh, not bring the proof down at the the final form, right? So we are using AI augments our activity every day, so that speed our activity. It can help us to create the good specification. It can help us to create specification in different forms, and having that, we will do our work just better. But AI cannot still replace the very core activity of verification, just proving. But from my points of view, actually the role of AI is much greater here that can be expected, just because as I told, the specification, the crucial points of form verification, and having different approaches to build the specification will have the more possibilities to verify the system. And having AI on the place, we build better specification in different forms, and comparing these forms actually gives us the possibility to prove the correct way, right? And so we use AI. AI is our friend, but not our enemy at the moment.
Well, that's great. And continue because I heard like and now I'm just hooking the words and keeping the conversation. Uh, you said that something can or cannot be done. I know that there are a lot of people or a lot of projects who believes that a formal verification is impossible for large and complex projects. That we can verify something simple, but when we are speaking about a full graded DeFi, it's impossible. What is your experience here? and your opinion.
Hmm. Yeah, that is a good point. Just because actually that's a partially true. The system is to be verified with more success if it's small. However, in comparison with big production, big companies, systems, the DeFi protocols, or any smart contracts are still small programs. There are no actually millions lines of code. That just maybe no tens of thousands. That's maximum, and it's still small program. And for verification, absolutely applicable to these kinds of programs. So, but the argument is actually actual, and you cannot realistically prove the system containing millions lines of code. It's quite so impossible at the moment.
We have
Sasha,
Eugene yes, yeah, Eugene, you don't need to ask. Like when you appear on a screen, we understand that you want to say something and you are always
thank
very
you.
welcome. You can stay with us.
Thank you. I don't know if you were planning to ask this question, but I want to ask Andrei the following. So, your customer, as a result of your work, so you have a contract, they paid, you did your work. What is the deliverable that your customer will receive after your work is completed? What are the documents, the proofs? What does it look like? And how they can use those documents to prove to third parties that indeed here are the results, and this is how we verify that the results are indeed as Provender arrived to. Thank you.
What? That
Mhm.
depends. Guys, sometimes the deliverables are the code. Sometimes is working application. Sometimes is a working application with the documentation being passed to the maintenance and support department. Sometimes and very frequently. That's the working application and 3 months of their hypercare where the development team is taking care of what is going on and what is happening. I hear from you the whole evening that it's not enough because there are high risk applications, high money involved applications, and I fully agree with that. I love like being a system integrator, yeah? I would love all my clients to order formal verification because that will also limit developers' responsibility. Because for me, leading the department where there are developers which we lend to our customers to build the smart contracts, and sometimes those are the smart contracts in a public networks. For me, when it's private, it's more controllable. When it's a public network and you build a contract, yeah, I obviously providing those specialists to my clients, I'm worried. I would love that to be formally verified because that shifts the responsibility. That shifts the responsibility from my team to those who verifies. And
Sasha, your question actually prompts another one from me to Andrei, and that is, are you prepared to scale up? What if people on the call listen to what Sasha is saying, and tomorrow you have 100 or 1,000 clients knocking on your door? What are you going to do?
Okay, the technology itself is scalable. So the level of engineers we actually need is scalable. So they shouldn't be PhDs, right? So and the technology is enough to be scalable. So actual question is that the form verification technology at the moment for the products like Web3 and DeFi protocols are scalable. I'm not saying about the very difficult projects like like aircraft, maybe I don't know exactly how to verify aircraft control system. So I do know, but I'm not familiar with very details. So for Web3 is scalable. So the artifact of formal verification from our company is not documentation. We deliver code. So proof itself is a code which can be run on different systems, which is called proof assistance, and at every computer. So we can take our code and rerun it again, how whatever number of times you want, right? And this is the important thing, that we do not provide report. We provide the code which can be run by any guy in the world.
And here my question is, what if, because every project is non-static, every project is ever evolving project. Are you providing the code which is evolving together with the certification and the source code too? Or is this subscription? How does it work?
Yeah, it is called like subscription, is actually the best model, and I can explain why. So at the first stages, you do not need, as I told before, you do not need to verify every step of development. You don't need to verify it. You need to specify it and wait until it's close to be done. I mean the specification itself. So specify again, specify one more time, and etc. Right? And at some moment, some parts of the specification will be stable more than others. And at this point, you can start the verification process, because in our world, to verify, to prove something is actually easier than to specify. Believe me, to prove something easier than to specify, because a lot of automation is coming, a lot of tools are coming to help us to prove the code, prove the specification, but it's not so much tools to help us to specify it. So my opinion is here: specify again, and at some point you will feel internally that you are ready to verify something already, right? At this point, start to prove.
Being back to responsibility shift, will it, like, if I'm as a system integrator persuading clients to order this formal verification as a process seems to be, and integrate that in my development pipeline, which means that we do have the analysts who are writing backlog, mean specifications, we have developers who are doing, and either instead or additionally to the traditional QA, which is actually like, well, my personal experience that for all our blockchain projects, we are doing 100% test automation cover. So it's all functional requirements are being test automated, and we have the regression test here. On top of that, we can have, or instead of that, that's, you will tell me in a minute, we can have formal verification, which will be like together, deliver it to the prod, which means that the code is running in prod, it's being verified, seems to be on fly, because we are going to add functionality. Yeah, we're all agile. Every week, new functionality is coming to prod through the famous CI/CD. Yeah, would it shift responsibility for my development team to your development team? Which means that when we have the exploits, I'm not responsible. Your team is responsible.
That's a good question. Actually, I'm not speaking about sharing the responsibility. I suggest that responsibility actually the legal term, and depending on what is your legal agreement, the responsibility is coming to that part or this part, right? And the crucial point to share or to shift the responsibility or to lift the responsibility somewhere is to agree on something. And in our life, so this point in the specification, if you agree on your specification, that is not our responsibility, right? Because you have already agreed on that. If you don't agree on your specification, that don't ask us to be responsible for your product correctness, right? That the not very clear how to regulate this without third party from my perspective. I suggest that involving the for DeFi protocols, for example, you can involve insurance company, and of course we need to talk with them, and we need to explain them the insurance premium should be decreased in the for the protocol with form verification, not only audited, and
And
this solves the issue as it is.
are
Allow
you
me to add,
ready? Yeah,
please, Sasha.
yeah.
Um, I think there's a different way, I think, to answer that question about shift of responsibility, and that is there are certain things in the world that are universally trusted. Mathematics is one of them. So if you provide a mathematical proof of something, what kind of responsibility do you have? So it's more of a like existential question. What is important to understand here is that the user of the verification needs to understand exactly what has been verified. And if the problem, subsequent problem that may arise is not caused by something that inside the code performed differently from what was proven, if the problem lies in the like man in the middle factor, human factor, or in some macro economic factor, or in whatever, or in the internet service provider area, right? Like a disconnect in communications, whatever. We have to be careful to point the blame. So to me, the beauty of formal verification is that there's no dispute. This is why we believe it's very well aligned with our vision of Devote, which is indisputable elections. That's our shortest elevator pitch of all I know of. Basically, for that to happen, formal verification of code is very important. Indisputability is a critical factor that I think formal verification brings. Back to you.
Well, we are back to the word trust. And I fully agree that the mathematic is undoubtable. We trust the math. We trust the equation. And we are happy then somebody does the equation on our code. And I believe like in terms of the practical or mass adoption, which we all want, we actually well, we all like three of us here, and I guess the most of our listeners, they want all the code to be formally verified. Being the business people too, we know that that introduces a cost. And I do believe that the key to the wide adoption here is not only being able to do that or being able to do that for the reasonable price, but also to cover that with the service, which will help companies using that to use it wisely. Means define their specifications good enough so they create the trust being verified. And for me, alongside all our discussion, that's the key topic. How to create those specifications on a way it leads to the trustful formal verification. And here I do believe that there is a possibility to build that and together with the legal services around, because Andrey, you're absolutely correct. That's the like the responsibility shift is the subject of the legal agreement. And I do believe that attractiveness to spend money, like what desire to spend money for the formal verification, goes along with the possibility to close the legal agreement to share the responsibility, not necessarily shift, but at least share. Because then the value appears to be very clear. And let's check what questions we have from audience, because I'm looking to the time and I'm knowing from our apps that we do have questions. So Andrew, do you need me to read the question or you can read it yourself?
So actually, I can read the question by myself. It's not a
Hmm.
problem. So do you want me to read the question
Well, let
loudly
let
or?
me let me read the question and you will answer
Okay,
that, because we can have people who are not watching video but listening that in audio, which means that like what the discussion they could follow, but when it's something written in your answers, they wouldn't know what you are saying. And so we have
okay.
question. Many projects skip formal verification due to cost. Do you believe this short-sightedness could lead to greater losses down the line? I think we answered this question, right?
Yeah, yes, yeah, that's we already had
Oh,
answer.
I think we already discussed that, and we even mentioned the major hacks like the DAO, where
Yeah,
Andrew told us that it can be probably remediated or it can be prevented by the
yeah.
presence
Absolutely.
of the formal. Well, I would probably slightly change the question. Andrew, by any chance, do you know? Probably you are like when your sales pitches, you are using those examples. What is the hack you are normally mentioning when you are trying to persuade people to buy formal verification? Like what, where it's undoubtful and everybody understands that it would be cured or would be prevented with the presence of the formal verification.
Yeah. So a number of years we are using the DAO example because that the very simple mistakes in the DAO project. Yeah, maybe I don't remember maybe in 8 years ago. So currently from the from the past events, so this year the status protocol was broken and it's lost about 200 millions, right? And the
Mhm.
vulnerability lays in the unchecked arithmetic logic, and this can be prevented just by using form verification, just because it's math, and math is very good example where form verification rockets, right? So having the mistake in arithmetic logic, you can prevent it absolutely. So this is a good example just because it's modern. It's in May 2025, and it's popular DeFi protocol. And so having the formally verified the arithmetic precision operation, you will have this bug on.
There's another good example that can illustrate the critical need for formal verification, and that's a hack of U.S. electric grid in California a few years back, where there was a malicious actor that requested a ransom, and somehow they were able to get access to generation facilities, and potentially could inflict the damage in billions of dollars. So when you're talking about critical like public infrastructure solutions, not necessarily blockchain, any kind that is used for some critical use cases, it's just a must. It would be irresponsible not to formally verify if such a service is available. And as the author of the question is correctly pointing out, it is indeed very short-sighted to skip. Thank you.
Well, here, Eugene, I can support you with all, safety questions in all the plants, in all the oil and gas facilities. There are a lot of things where the closed permits are being open with the permits to work and all this stuff that saves lives, that saves nature. And here I can see like what they really like urge to use formal verification, because will save us and the planet where we live. Yeah, it's not only money, that's lives.
But
Uh,
also,
Absolutely.
there's another factor why it is not so widely used yet. Again, it is only recent availability of the service when we talk about blockchain, for example, and there's just not enough awareness yet that this is available. Same with the broader blockchain maturity model, which again reduces risks to basically all participants of the process. It is not widely used yet because it's so new. So I wanted to extend a word of thanks to you, Sasha, by offering this broadcast possibilities for us to spread the word among your audience and hopefully increase adoption of this wonderful tool.
Yeah, well, the thanks accepted, because I do believe inside myself that it's very important that it would be wider, and not only among customers. Developers must know about this, because that's the new way to test your code, which makes you like, well, I had a friend who was writing the code of where in the brains to drill a hole to cure the certain things. And could you imagine, like, the responsibility which goes with those with those pieces of the code? It's better to be formally validated by, like, by the machine, mathematically proven, because, well, it's literally drilling a hole in your brain or somebody else's brain. Uh, yeah, all the medical stuff. And nowadays, especially with a lot of AI tools to be used to write the code, AI tools to be used to test the code or to write the tests, well, I better see more formal verification than before. Because currently, like, well, I would say 20 years ago, the level of the ordinary developer was most likely higher, because there were less developers and they had more experience and they had more, like, they felt more responsibility than now. And nowadays, almost every developer writes half of the code. Well, we bet like half of the code and not 1/10. And the rest is created for them by the certain language models. And I pray that all those developers read the code. And I would support that the another code is being checking what is being written by the language models. We have a next question. And developers love speed and iteration. Yes, we were speaking about that. How do you embed the rigorous discipline of formal verification without slowing down innovation and rapid releases? Well, we started to speak about that. Obviously, our public, and that's anonymous question, guys. Uh, uh, like, our public is seems to be the developer who is worried that the code would be slowed down reaching production. Andrew, tell us a little bit about this, how to do that fast enough.
Yeah, so actually in Web3, so there is no so much rush. So everybody known to me is actually somehow they think about the security, and there is no so much rush in innovation. So from I can ask from myself, do you think that the broken and innovation is better than absence of innovation at all? From my perspective, in Web3 is kind of that. So if you have broken innovation, it's worse than if you slow down your process and at the right moment release the good product. From my perspective, in Web3. So maybe in other area the speed of production, the speed of releases is more important than the correctness. But in DeFi, I think that so we need to find a good level of balance now here.
I would say that it seems to be depends on area. Because, like, in
Yeah.
medicine, I don't want, like, well, I better slow down the innovation. But when we're speaking about the advertisement, then whatever. So Yes, it really depends, and it really depends on the market and on what the application does. Uh, for me, that's important that is understood and controlled. So, which means that you have the place to control that. You have those controls in your hand. Eugene, you
I
seems
think
to
there's
be agree
another
with me.
argument. There's another argument how potentially this seeming problem can be resolved. Let's remember that formal verification technology is also evolving, and Andrey and his team and others in the area are constantly working to improve what they're doing. And I think there will be solutions available that will very quickly be able to to verify whatever new releases are proposed by developers without really slowing down anything. Andrey, am I right?
Absolutely, absolutely. We are working a lot to speed up our technology. Yeah.
Do we have more questions, guys? I'm waiting. Have AI augmented tools made any human role in formal verification obsolete or just much more interesting?
Yeah, we we have already touched this area, and as I said, that is very much more interesting to work with AI at the moment. So we have a great fun having the specification written by AI, and that is much better than the situation when we don't have the specification at all, right? Having it from AI is better than don't having it, right? Not having it. So it's much more interesting, but the role of human, the role of verification engineer here is not obsolete. Just suggest that the verification engineer now has a lot of different handles, right? And the AI is one of the handle it has.
That's the room for scalability, how Eugene were asking.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, next question. Wow, that's not anonymous question. First of all, we have Sergey who is asking this. At this moment, it seems to me that formal verification is a good extension to audits, which may find weak points at specifications. And when the specifications are in a good shape, then formal verification comes to the stage. Looks like a commentary, not a question. Uh,
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The only question I do have here is what audit is. So the audit is the uh, unspecified term. So and there is a lot of discussion of should form verification contains audit as a subcategory or should audit contains form verification as a subcategory. So the great question we are discussing every day. So just because nobody knows what audit is actually. So I suggest that this comment is excellent just because if you put the specification created to the audit part, then of course. But if you put the specification created to creation to the form verification part, then my question is that what is the rest of audit?
Well, that's a good answer. I also was thinking that we all prefer the formality part in all these audits and verifications. We all here are adopts of the formal, proven, because we like the math. And when we speak, like, well, I have a feeling that audit is set of actions which are facilitating this legality and formality because not everything for now, and that's the common belief. I believe, like, what I'm phrasing that doesn't mean that I agree with this. That not everything can be put in a formal part, so we have an audits where they are just like, more chaotic and less structured reviews. Let's see. I really would like to see the world moving to more formal part, where we can look to the proven mathematically and not proven by somebody.
It is unavoidable, and it's coming for sure. There's no debate, I think, whether this is needed or not. The only question is, as you discussed, who can afford, how big of a mistake it is not to do it, and then raising awareness to among all those people who are responsible for proper work of critical solutions, especially infrastructure, public solutions. It's just a matter of raising awareness and making service available to them. So I am willing to bet we're going to see that massive adoption very soon.
Yeah, fully agree. Would like to see that. I think we have the room for the last question, and we're going to wrap up. Please show us if we have anything. The one. Some say audits are just marketing. Do smart clients ask for formal verification yet? Wow, that's the question from my real life. Means how many projects do you already have? Or how much money do you make?
I can start answering by saying that smart clients don't ask, they just do it.
Yeah.
And again, it's a must for some. So the answer is definitely yes. Andrei, I hope you agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I suggest that the question is not in the form of what are you doing for your security assurance, right? This is not the audit or formal verification. In the way how we actually perform that. If you are doing audit for just a stamp, it's for marketing. If you are doing formal verification for just a stamp, it's marketing as well. But if you are looking for, if you are seeking for deep understanding of how your code actually performs, how your code actually working, right? So my answer is it's valuable, right? And you need to do both audit and formal verification, whatever it is, right? So you need to understand how the code works.
Guys, I like looking to the question, listening to you. I already know with what slogan we will put that in advertisement. We will say, be smart, ask for formal verification. And I think that it really goes well with that. And guys, I think we had a wonderful discussion. And I think we covered the topic from all the possible directions so our audience can have like can go and ask for the formal verification, and now you know where to go. I will give you, like Eugene and Andrew, the chance to say the closing word, whatever you want to say, probably share the context or something, and then we will close that soon. Yeah.
Thank you, Sasha. I'll very quickly say that we are hoping that all of the listeners and viewers of today's call received enough information to take an action, whether themselves or through their clients, and bring the benefits of both anonymity and formal verification to your daily life. Thank you.
Andrew?
Yeah, my turn. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Eugene, and for having me today. What I would like to say at the final words is that the real way to start formification, the real way is to start understanding how your code works is internal environment. So you need to ask yourself how your code is working, and if you find the right answer to this question, I think that the world will be better, the production code will be better, and all our life maybe will be more secure.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Eugene, to being with us. It was Blockchain Professionals Community. It was a brown bag session on formal verification in Web3, ensuring security and correctness for critical systems. I'm Sasha Pitkevich saying bye to you, and at the same time, stay with us, look for our content, and join us. Blockchain Professionals Community welcomes all the blockchain professionals. Thank you. Bye bye.